Hidden Object Guru here, joined by...
The Gun Wrangler.
Is it bad that I don't remember how to clean, Oh, okay, it does work. Like, does the mop work on spray paint? It does, but I feel like there's got to be a better way to clean spray paint, right?
No, we had to use acid, as I
Oh,
recall.
okay. Acid. Right. Heads will roll, and we will clean them up. Waka waka. So, yes, we are here to talk about the rest of Man in the High Castle, which... This is one of those things where I'm like, did they change showrunners every year or something?
What about, like, in the last 3 episodes?
Yeah.
It changed in tone very dramatically.
I would and I have no proof of this, but I would suggest they found out they were getting canceled very late. This doesn't feel like a season of television by people who thought there wasn't going to be a show anymore.
Yeah.
Like, it's so abrupt. To the point where I'm like, I'm in the last 10 minutes of the episode. Well, not 10, but the last 20 minutes of the episode. I'm like, are they really ending all of this now? Oh, okay. Like,
well, my reaction was, is this how they're really going to end it?
Well, yes. There's up and down parts to how they ended it. Mostly down. I'm not going to be go crazy, but there is some good stuff. Weirdly, I think it probably should have taken a little longer, although the timelines in the show have never been great. But it is realistic how they wrapped up the Japanese occupation of America. Like, that's fairly realistic, because it's at a certain point, it's just not, and this is what happens to every invasion like this, at a certain point, it's just not financially viable to keep this going anymore, and they leave.
Yeah.
You know, that's just true. That is how these kinds of things wrap up, and I thought that was fairly accurate. If they had the slightest idea what they were doing, they wouldn't have just introduced the Black Communist Revolution now. Like...
I'm
the people
kind of upset that they're portrayed as the good guys, but...
Well, when you're battling Japan, 100% the Black Communist Revolution are the good guys. Like,
I don't know. This is kind of like Hitler versus Stalin. There are no good guys.
yeah, except no, there's no reason to think the Black Communist Revolution is going to start doing show trials and executing people. That has never been part of their MO. Like, the real ones in real life, or this fictional one. Like, there's no character, like, there's no reason to believe that they're going to go mad with power. They're about, you know, taking the boot off of our necks, finally. And if they have to take the boot off the necks of white people, too, well, they'll do that.
Well, they'll do that as a matter of course.
Yeah.
It's not what they wanted.
No, it's not what they want to, but, I mean, that will be a happy side effect of their actions. It's an interesting thing about this season, which is, when they started crafting, it's like, oh... I guess, who should be in charge of these guys? And obviously it should be Fred Hampton. And then someone looked it up and it's like, oh my god, Fred Hampton was 15 when all of this, in the year this was set.
Yep.
Because most people don't realize how young Fred Hampton was when he was assassinated. Like, he was like 20. You know? Like,
well,
they got him early.
I mean, I did like the use of historical characters.
Oh, yeah. Buddy Holly is in the show this year, in season 3. For one shot.
At the same time, I'm sort of like, some of these people were less good, and sometimes it does feel like David Ayer should have gotten a writing credit for that one. But
I can see that. Yeah, it's interesting because I mean, they want to use the real people to give it that extra veneer, right? Just like, here is how the world has changed, and yes, as we know, the world was changed because Roosevelt got assassinated. That's why America lost. That's why America lost the war, which is completely believable. Like, if you didn't have Roosevelt as president, then you don't have a guy who's concerned about Hitler. And you wait way too long to get into the war.
I thought that was the plot of Wolfenstein, and in this case, it was the Nazis just got the bomb first, and that's why Washington, D.C. is now a radioactive exclusion zone.
Yeah, and it's weird that Washington, D.C. is a radioactive exclusion zone that plenty of people live in. Uh, like, I was surprised at how many people are just walking around Washington, D.C., and I'm like, didn't it get nuked?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it got nuked. Well, yeah, but that's the thing, and it's like, if you think about it, it makes sense that if Roosevelt's dead, then they would be too slow to get the bomb, because you wouldn't have the government actively trying to recruit Jewish scientists to build the bomb if Roosevelt's not president. Like, you have people who are even more hostile to Jewish refugees than they were in real life. And you have people who aren't that concerned. But interestingly, you still have people provoking the Japanese, because they acknowledge that, yes, the reason World War II happened was America got pissed off at what Japan was doing to China, so they cut off all of their gas.
Yeah, because my understanding is Japan did not have any sources of oil.
Nope.
Whatsoever, and they're like, yeah, America's turning off the taps on you bitches.
And that's why World War II happened. The Japan versus America part is literally that they were pissed about what they were doing to China, so they turned off the tap, and then boom, Pearl Harbor. And I guess, and that still happened, but I guess they're saying that without Roosevelt there, already mobilizing to, like, and massively mobilizing and, what do you call it, massively building up the armies to deal with Hitler, you don't have a country that's as ready to attack Japan as well, so they lose that war too. There's to be
actually a really good podcast about this called Supernova in the East by Dan Carlin.
Okay.
Of hardcore history fame.
I'm familiar with Dan Carlin, yeah. And?
Oh, it details all of this.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
And it turns out, because strangely enough, I was listening to this exact podcast.
Happy coincidence.
Japan was at war with itself for the bulk of the 20s and 30s.
Yeah.
And I did not know that.
Endless civil war. Constant political assassinations. Basically a civil war about what they should do. Because they were, I mean, let's face it, their economy after that war with Russia that they won was pretty messed up, I think. And it led to all sorts of questions about, well, what should we do now? And some people wanted to conquer China to fix all of their economic problems.
Well, part of it is also that you need acid for that.
Yeah, I just thought I'd try the laser. Where is the incinerator?
Downstairs.
Okay, well, I will not try carrying anything, because whenever I do, everything flies out, because you're the one hosting the game. Yep. The one downside to the game, because I packed up a crate full of shell casings and whatnot, and signs, so you can grab that at your leisure.
Okay.
And anyway, you were saying.
The Army and the Navy of Japan were at war with one another.
Yeah.
To the point where,
insane.
There was, monthly or weekly assassinations of one against the other.
Yeah. It's crazy, right?
And apparently the Army wanted to focus entirely on Manchuria, and the Navy wanted to focus on America and the islands.
Makes sense.
And it turns out they whacked the right general, so Pearl Harbor happened.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. It's like there is oil, and I understand the motive to attack America to try and get the oil back, because, there was such a good source of oil all right there, right? And if they could just convince America to sell it to them, or in the case of what they did on the show, invade America and just take their oil, then they would be set to keep fighting their wars. But without that resource, they have no war-fighting capability.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I totally understand the logic, and what the show does well is it understands that at a certain point, it's just not financially responsible to keep doing this occupation. You can't keep fighting these wars of occupation because you can't possibly make enough money from the occupation to... Oh, god damn it. I remember the problem with this level. It's that you can't throw things.
Yeah.
And because you can't throw things, how the hell are you supposed to put the acid on the various graffito?
Yeah.
Okay, I remember this level. Anyway, you were saying.
Alright, back to things. Let's go through it character by character.
Yes.
And see how the writers disappointed us.
Well, I think we can... I mean, I'm going to say this, and I don't know if you're going to agree or not. It's entirely up to you. I was 100% satisfied with Robert Childan's journey through the show.
I was satisfied up to a point. Like, yeah, I'm going to pay off the Yakuza to get me on a boat and I'll never be seen again.
It's weird that we don't see him on the boat at the end of the series.
Yeah, that's pretty much...
It's you just needed one shot of him on a boat at the end of the series. Like finally giving up all trace of America's life. He's turned over the keys to his store, blah, 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 blah. Like, let's see him on the boat, show. What are you doing?
Yeah. And the 15 seconds...
Yeah. Yeah, like, you wouldn't have lost anything, like, if you had added that. And you could have cut... You're right, you could have cut that 15 seconds from anywhere and given us that shot of him on the boat to wrap up his story.
Yeah, because by the end of it...
Yeah.
He was pretty much carrying the ship.
Oh, God, yeah. His journey is so compelling through the entire series.
And it's so much more compelling than Juliana Crane.
It's weird how, and this is what I talk about, did they change showrunners every year? Because they're like, in the first season, okay, she's she's dealing with the stuff for her sister, and she's meeting the trade minister, Takomi, and she's going through all of this stuff. Like, I get that. In the second season, they're like, don't you understand? You're important to Fate! Fate has decided you're the most vital person in this story. I'm like, oh, okay. And then you get to season 3.
Season 3, they're like, nah.
Nah, we're not... We don't remember why we started doing that storyline, so we're just going to pretend we never said any of that. And in season 4, she's just hanging out on the sidelines for the entire season until she kills John Smith.
She doesn't even kill John Smith.
Yeah, she does. She shoots him.
No, he shoots himself.
Oh, he shoots himself. You're right. Yeah, you're right, he shoots himself.
In the ultimate show of why the showrunner should be dragged outside and shot.
How does she not kill John Smith? You're absolutely right.
Well, beyond the fact that it steals everything her character wanted.
Yeah,
and
it really
needed
does.
For any sort of relevance to the show.
Yeah.
It is totally against John Smith's character.
This is a man
who is just like...
Who's literally done anything to survive this entire time.
I will crawl over however many bodies it takes. I will kill, lie, cheat, steal.
Yeah, I will do anything to keep going. He wants his son back. He wants to keep going. He'll do anything for it, and then boom. Hey, how come we never reveal, like... It seems like at some point, given his feelings about his son, he probably, because there's an implication that this is what they've been doing with the people. This is, like, these tests of how they've been euthanizing people. Which means, because his son is alive in our world, Dr. Mengele ran his son into that machine and his son turned into a pile of goo.
Yeah.
That is the implication created, and that's never followed up on, and he never kills Dr. Mengele.
Well, beyond that, we have the entire issue where it's like, okay, I will do anything to survive. I've never shown one iota of racism throughout the entire show. Oh, by the way, suddenly I'm a racist. You gotta kill me. Like, the last 3 episodes, someone got fired. Someone on the writing staff got fired, I'm positive.
Well, yeah, and I mean, the thing is, I don't know if somebody got fired, but I think because they knew they had to wrap it up quickly, they're like, this guy has to be a trash person right at the end. Although you say, we've never had an experience to know whether he's a racist or not, because they did kill all of the black people already. Like, they had already done that. And by the way, it's weird how one of the things that is mentioned in the book that I thought was, it's not an important part of the book, but it's mentioned, is that what the Nazis did was they did all of their nuclear tests and all of their strange experiments in Africa, because it was right there and defenseless, and as a consequence, there's no Africa anymore.
Yeah, Africa literally ceased to exist.
Yeah, it's not there. There's no people. Go, go, go.
We're not talking just the people. We're talking like geographically.
Yeah, like it is just an irradiated hellscape. The entire continent.
They filled in the Mediterranean.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing. For ease of transport of goods,
No, they turned it into farmland.
Yes. Oh, right. Yes, thank you. Also, that does make it easier to move. But yeah, like they were doing these crazy things to reshape the world in their image. And that's an interesting idea, and that also got left out of the book, the show, because I think it would be expensive to do. But yeah, like, they wanted to reinforce what a trash person he is right at the end of the show, and it does come out of left field, you're right.
That's the thing, throughout the show, he hasn't been a trash person any more than, if you were to compare it to DS9, Kira.
Yeah.
I'd put him on par with Kira.
Well, he's a little worse. She's not, signing off on death camps.
Oh, no, she's just blowing up transports full of civilians.
Yes, exactly. But then again, she does feel bad about it.
Yeah.
Eventually.
But, in terms of, death camps for civilians, that just came straight out of nowhere. That was literally...
Well, the thing is...
in the last 20 minutes of the show.
Yeah, and they should have set that up. And the thing is, yes, that is what Nazis have always done, and it's what they would continue doing. But at the same time, they should have set it up way earlier than they did.
Yeah, because it just came off as
right at the last minute. Yeah.
Super ham-fisted.
Oh, yeah. They're like, oh, by the way, here's the map of where all of the Jews live in the neutral zone and and California, right? And yes, that is something Nazis would 100% do, but it should have been mentioned earlier. Have a bunch of scenes where they talk about the fact that, how frustrating it is to them that they have completely cleansed the Jew from most of America, and yet they still sit there, completely free to do what they want and spread their filth throughout the neutral zone and California. And they do have the Jew hunters show up in the show in season 3, but it's like that's the only sign we get.
Even in season 1, we had Jew hunters and bounty hunters and all that.
We had bounty hunters, but they weren't specifically in the 3rd season. We addressed that there's specifically guys out there just looking for Jews and executing them.
Yeah,
and
I think it was more. It seems like, honestly, it seems like his arc was going someplace else, wildly different, and then someone's
completely.
The
show's canceled.
Well, someone bought a Makarov off Gunbroker for $188, and he's going to go into the writer's room and shoot people until we're communist enough.
No, that is clearly not what happened. What happened is they had an arc for this plan, and that arc got screwed up when they found out that they were being canceled in season 4. Because this is I can
as soon as the first trailer came out. This is the final season. This is the final season.
Yeah, but trailers don't happen until after the show is oh damn. The trailer happens long after the whole show is shot. I would guess, and the thing is I can't say for sure. I would guess that they were in production before they knew they were canceled. But even if they weren't in production yet, when they ended season, it is clear that when they ended season 3, they didn't think season 4 was going to be their last season. The place they ended the season 3, they 100% didn't think season 4 was going to be their last season. And all of the problems, well, not all, but most of the problems this show has, right, is, what do you call it? Most of the problems the show has come from them trying to rush to the end. And yes, I think the Black Communist Revolution would have worked a lot better had they been set up. And I feel like season 4 was designed to set them up, and then everything was going to pay off in season 5.
But I feel like at some point they were set up to be, one of the things they did do very well was portray resistance movements as, morally kind of gray.
Yeah. Although it wasn't as bad as although I gotta say I did like the lack of Frank's hand wringing for having blown up a building. You blew up the secret police headquarters. It's fine.
It's fair game.
It is a 100% fair game to have blown it up. He's like, no, my real gift to the world is going to be pictures of sunrises.
Poorly done art is my calling.
What? Where did this come from?
No, you can tell they rushed it both seasons, but it was especially... Well, no,
but I mean, season 3, like, they had locked into Frank being an important character, and they knew they had botched everything about him, so they're like, how quickly can we wrap up this Frank stuff? And that's how quickly they wrapped up the Frank stuff.
Well, I particularly feel that it's the last 3 or so episodes of the show that are egregious.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have a strong end, and that's why I was so puzzled that this is... I kept checking throughout the last 3 episodes whether... Is this really ending now? Like, are you sure there aren't 12 episodes this year? Because you're setting up so much you can't pay off in 3 episodes. And they couldn't pay it off in 3 episodes, and they didn't pay off in 3 episodes, and it's very unsatisfying how they wrap things up. As I said, the only arc I find fully satisfying is Robert's arc. Because he goes through the whole experience.
Yeah.
And he really does.
He is probably the only one that they didn't totally fuck his arc.
Yeah. Yeah, and the weird part is, after the first 2 seasons, like, the first season, they didn't really know they were going with Juliana. In the second season, they set something up that's kind of crazy. In the third season, they're like, no, we're going back on that, and she just will occasionally shoot people for the resistance. And then that's the whole show. Like, that's it? Like, she's your main character, she's in all of the art, blah, 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 blah. And then, no, like, she's fundamentally, she and her Irish friend are just kind of there for the ending.
Well, then the fact that she had, like, 2 interchangeable, very similar looking white dudes as her compatriots.
Yeah, that was not great. That did not help things.
Not well cast. I'll be honest.
It really was a problem, wasn't it? It's like, you can have people with different hair color. People can just shave their head. They don't have to look this similar.
Like, clearly I understand, showrunner, you think all white people are exactly the same, but let me tell you.
Yeah, no, like, just visually speaking, they could have done a lot more there. Just to differentiate and, help us keep track of these people.
Because it's also, not like they're compelling in any way, shape, manner, or form.
But yeah, the biggest problem, of course, is the loss of Tagomi in the last season.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing that hurts the show most. Because, again, his journey through this world, like, and through the alternate worlds, has been so key to everything about this story and everything about this world, right? That to have him unceremoniously killed off in a flashback in the first episode, I'm like, oh, what are you doing? How do you not get how badly you're screwing up this whole show?
I felt the same way about John Smith. It's like, okay, this guy is extremely compelling, extremely interesting. He just committed a coup. This is the second time he's done it. And I'm still entertained. This is amazing.
Yeah.
You've got something going on here.
And instead of and the thing is, if they had built up further, like, because his second in command, as we learn, fundamentally still thinks of himself as an American, and plenty of the American Nazi Party does, right?
Exactly, and there was this whole thing where, he's like, listen, we will back your coup.
Yeah. Exactly. Like, we will back your coup.
We need to be a nation again.
American. We'll be we've got nukes. We'll back your coup. Nobody fundamentally likes the Nazis. We're going to be a nation again. Right? And
they could have... It would have been super simple.
Yeah.
Especially given all the backstory that was in it. It could have been this awesome redemptive arc of him being like, listen, I lost myself. I'm going to find myself again. We're going to make America...
Exactly. And honestly, I feel like had that arc happened over the 5th season, I would be completely happy with where the show turned up. But like the figuring out what to do with America after the coup, I'm like, this is going someplace interesting. Then I realize, oh no, wait, there's only 40 minutes left in the show.
Yeah, literally 40 minutes left
after the coup, and there's not time to do anything interesting. So they're just like, no, they're gonna blow him up on a train, and that's that. Okay. What?
I give up because.
Yeah,
and a man who murdered one of his childhood friends.
Yep. To keep going.
To keep his son safe for another maybe 6 months.
Oh yeah. Like he has murdered people to protect his family in the past. And he knows he's sure his son's going to die in Vietnam, and he's not willing to do anything to get there. Suddenly?
Yeah. On that. And, like his wife has murdered people too. And suddenly she's this queen of virtue? Come on.
Yeah, it's crazy how it ends up. Now, at one point, I think you can sell the wife's thing much more easily than John Smith's, because she did go and live in the neutral zone for a year, and she has this because he's spending
killed a woman with her bare hands and her fucking teeth.
Yeah, but again, in a fight, it wasn't. She didn't show up with a syringe and plot to murder somebody.
Honestly, that seems a bit more rational than, like.
No, like you get in, you ask someone to let it go, they attack you, you get into a fight, and one of the people winds up dead. That is literally manslaughter. There was no premeditation. It's a horrible thing.
It's murder too, but...
No, it's not murder. I don't think it is murder too. I think it's manslaughter. Death in a fight is manslaughter.
No one intended... Death in the fight accidentally, like...
It is accidentally. She didn't try to kill her. She clubbed her to defend herself, and the woman died.
If I were to get angry at you next week after trivia, punch you, and you fall down...
That's not... and hit my head. Yeah, that's not murder too. That's manslaughter. That's not
murder too. If I come in, I'm like, oh yeah, by the way, if you don't keep my son's secret safe, I'll kill you, and then you kill someone, that's murder
She didn't go and threaten to kill her. She just was going and trying to ask her to let this go. Because, let's face it, her husband's already dead. The son's already dead. There's no reason to keep doing this. And she didn't start the fight. I'm saying, it's manslaughter. I'm not saying she did the right thing.
But, okay. Difference of opinions.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, you didn't start the fight. You killed somebody in self-defense. Maybe you provoked the fight, that's debatable, but like...
self-defense if you're in someone's home and attacking them.
She didn't attack her. She was attacked. She didn't attack the doctor's wife.
No, she attacked the doctor's wife because she turns around and is like, I'm gonna snitch you out.
Yes.
And then she jumps her from behind.
Okay.
So, yes.
No, but it's like, fundamentally...
If I can jump you from behind...
and then have it still be manslaughter... I'm just saying, because it's a fight, and because she went there with no specific intent, they would have a hard time making a murder 2 case. But the point is, it's like, even then, I would have to say that, fundamentally, like, it's still her trying to cover up for John, and her son's already dead, so I understand where she's coming from more, right?
Okay.
Right, whereas John is just full-on murdering people.
Yeah. That's flat out murder one.
But fundamentally, like, I buy it more from her character because she took that year off. And she lived in the neutral zone for a year. And she got outside of the Reich and saw how, like, terrible the things they were doing were, and had the time outside of it to actually think about it for a second. I completely understand how she is going to, turn on her husband in the way she did. That one I found much more plausible. Right? That said, they did another interesting thing where they had a character completely repurposed to tell a story they wanted to tell without using the real person. Because they do the third season about propaganda, blah, 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 and making a movie about her son. And here's the thing. In all likelihood, and they have the Nazi lady from the second season do that story.
Yeah.
And it's clear, I mean, at least to me, I don't know if it was clear to you, that what they originally wanted to do, because they talk about her so much, is the fact that Leni Riefenstahl probably was gay. Right? There's good reason to believe, historically looking back, that Leni Riefenstahl was gay. And this story of the filmmaker going and feeling free to just be more open in America as compared to Nazi Germany, where repression is the only thing that exists. Because, the cornerstone of fascism is, well, what makes straight white men uncomfortable? That's what we're against. So they basically really hate gay people in these twisted fascist countries. I mean, it's what America was like during its more fascist days. It's what Germany was like. Italy was really bad for it. And that's what Russia's like now, right? So fundamentally, they're like, anything that isn't straight white relationships is a perversion that has to be dealt with. And there's an interesting story there. It's just weird that it's all happening to a character that isn't a historically real person. So they would inherit that, like, depth to the character, or a character we care at all about.
Yeah, I can tell they tried to make her into a more prominent. Like, they're like, wow, Robert Chilton's testing off the charts. Maybe what we need is more minor characters.
Yes. Well, and the thing is, I understand what they wanted to do, or they wanted to make this point about which sides were more accepting of homosexuality versus the repressive community. And so we reveal that Eddie is gay, which is fine. Like that.
Is Eddie DJ Qualls?
Yeah, DJ Qualls. Yeah.
Okay.
We reveal that he's gay, which got revealed this season. And they explain why we couldn't reveal it before is because, there was so much homophobia in the place he was from, which is fair. And they want to, contrast his being able to be open and happy for the first time in his life with the, secrecy that the Leni Riefenstahl character comes up against. Except, we're on board with him, and we care about what happens to him, because we already like this man, in a way that we don't care at all about what happens to her.
Yeah, in what you could call the complete opposite of how we feel about her.
Exactly. Yeah, and I gotta say, the stuff, they also didn't know really what to do with Joe, so they just kill him off 3/4 of the way through the season. Well, and it's weird because we often talked about people, how Counterpart was a world, like a show about a world where no one knows how spying works.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Counterpart, Counterpart is based on the virtually exclusive theory that our side's spies are
just terrible at everything.
They're so bad. They went to, the DeVry School of Academy.
Yeah, the DeVry School of Espionage.
Not locking doors.
Oh, it's crazy. Whereas in the same thing happened this time, where Joe shows up as a cultural attaché, right?
Yeah.
In San Francisco, in a disputed city, San Francisco, and the show doesn't understand that if you're a cultural attaché, then everyone knows that is code for spy. Everyone knows that. And The show lives in a world where this new cultural attaché they've never heard of has shown up, and a prominent Nazi shows up, and he's not followed everywhere he goes. He's free to just, like, walk around murdering, like, people under government protection.
Yep.
Because no one has bothered to check in on this cultural attaché. And if they did things showing us how he, like, slipped his pursuers or stuff and did clever spy stuff, that would be kind of fine. But instead, he's just, like, free to walk around and do whatever he wants.
He's just walking around whacking people and just like, whatever.
Yeah, in broad daylight.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a surprise. It was very strange how it was handled. And it's like, I mean, I know spy stuff is hard to write, but come on, you gotta at least try to write the spy stuff.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like there was any effort.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. Like, when they start doing the spy stuff with him, it really doesn't feel like they're putting in any effort. And that's kind of a big problem for me, because, you know, we've talked in the past about how we feel about the spy stuff. We love it. Yeah. Careful. Yay, I cleaned an elevator. So yeah, it's weird. It's like this situation where Joe gets written out of the show, and you're like, yeah, okay, well, I guess it was about time. Yep. I guess, you know, makes sense to me. Like, because, and it's, once again, it's one of the main characters of the show is getting killed off, and again, you have no emotional involvement in the fact that it's happening.
You don't care. I don't even remember how he died.
She slashes his throat. He's like, BT dub, Julia, I'm super evil, and so she slashes his throat, and that's it.
Alright.
The fact that you don't even remember that happened is a perfectly good example of what was wrong with how they dealt with that character.
Whereas, like, I can go on for, a half hour about the Inspector.
Oh.
The Inspector.
Now that's an interesting journey.
Yeah, he has a fantastic journey that pays off in the end. I mean,
yep.
Not down with his Yubitsume at the end, but they're like, yeah, cut off your finger and join the mob. And he's like, okay. And then we never hear anything about him ever again.
Again, why didn't they check in with every other character one last time in the last episode?
Yeah.
Like, I know what his role is going to be. And it's just the same as Robert. We know what's going to happen to him, but let us see a taste of it. Instead, they have a bizarre scene where hundreds of people start coming to the fake world. The show's world, and I don't know why or how they found out about it.
Or what they're going to do once they're there, being like, all right, oh, by the way, you're in Nazi America.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe they'll help with... Maybe they'll help with the Nazi situation. Maybe. But it's such a weird ending because it comes completely out of left field.
Well, beyond that, we don't know how many of those people are also Nazis. I mean, like,
Yeah. Well, I think pointedly none of them had armbands on. But you're right, that might mean nothing.
Yeah.
And what's so strange about the ending is, like, they're like, something big's coming, and it's like, we've had these dreams about the gate, and so you keep expecting, okay, well, what is this big reveal gonna be? And it's like, and the big reveal is people from we don't know where have shown up through the gate. We don't know how or why.
Reason.
Yeah, like, we don't know how they're showing up through the gate. We don't know why they're showing up through the gate. But Stephen Root and Alexa Davilo seem pretty happy about it. And that's the image they decide to close out the entire show on?
I found this entire show such a waste of Stephen Root. And I can tell the writers focused on him and tried to make his arc compelling, but it just fucking wasn't.
No, it wasn't. And I'm sure he was...
Root.
Well, honestly, he's got Barry. He's doing fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. They could have done a ton more with his character than they did, because they reveal in the third season that the first film was a fake, done via editing, and then every subsequent film, right, was something that brought to him because they knew he was the guy who could, get the films out there.
Yes.
And teach people about the world. Also, they introduced a new rule where you can only go to a world where you don't exist.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's a new rule.
We never figured out who was giving him the films.
Yes, no. No. We get the impression that is not followed up on in any way, that literally people are doing Tagomi style, like, meditation-based world jumping all of the time, and a lot of them are bringing movies.
Yes, but we don't encounter any of these people.
I know, and that's
or
the
get
real
like
problem.
any motive being like, yeah.
Like, we heard this the first time I visited here. I knew the Nazi thing was a problem.
Have some films. Good luck.
Have some films to help. Yes. You're right. We needed an explanation.
I'm not going to cross time and space with an armload full of explosives or anything, that would measurably help you in any way, shape.
No, just movies.
Have some film.
Just movies. Some of which, out of left field, will feature pictures of John Smith's family on the other side. Not because we planned that, because we found out he was the Führer here, and we thought this would be a good way to...
Reichsmarshal of America.
Reichsmarshal of America, and, first president of New America, or first Führer of New America, for the week before he killed himself.
Oh, that brings up another thing. His aide being like, all right, well, we've got all these German soldiers about to invade the West Coast.
Yeah.
And they're going to take the heaviest casualties right now and be unable to fight back against us for when the Americans want to rise up and reunite. You know what? Call it off. Whatever.
Well, but the thing is, he doesn't want to blow up San Francisco. Like, he never wanted... Really? That character never wanted to blow up San Francisco because he
wasn't
fundamentally...
Blow it up. He was just going to pour Fallschirmjägers into it. Not even his Fallschirmjägers. He's going to send German troops in there to clean out ethnically based terrorists.
Yeah, but the thing is, that's not a good way to...
Like, all right, this is America now.
Except that's not what's going to happen. History has proven all air raids do is piss people off and make them fight you harder. Like, there's this whole idea that if you can bomb people into submission...
large chunk of the plan where they were going to airdrop in paratroopers.
Oh yeah, they were, but the point is... No, I didn't miss the part of the plan, but they were going to have to do street-to-street fighting again in a dense thing against people who live there and are planning a resistance. That generally doesn't go well for the invaders. It creates an endless nightmare occupation. And he didn't want to send in tens of thousands of people to get killed.
Here's the thing. If you send in Nazi paratroopers to fight black communists, and both sides die, and you're like, what up? This is America now. That sounds like a win to me.
Yeah, but they're not Nazis. They're American Nazis.
No.
Like, they are American
citizens. They were Gundarian's Nazis. Remember, he's like, oh, well, my paratroopers are going to go in there. They'll do so much better than yours.
Yeah, but that wasn't all of the troops they had. Like, you have to send in hundreds of thousands of troops to pacify a city like that.
So,
and very few of them are going to be the actual Nazis.
So to be clear, you're okay with European Nazis dying, but not American ones.
No, I'm saying the American Nazis are less willing to fight on American soil. That's why I don't think it would go as well for them. Like, fundamentally, any kind of invasion like that, you're going to end up with a bloody war of occupation, and it's not going to go well for you.
No, because you're going to end up with a bloody war followed by the Americans being like, yeah, this is America again. Well, most of the Nazis are dead. Let's mop them up and go back to being America.
Maybe, but you can't...
If you're killing Nazis, how is any game plan that involves killing Nazis a bad one?
No, it's always a good plan to kill Nazis. I completely agree with that, but I'm just saying, this guy's plan, like, this guy needs America to come back together. Yeah. And the best way to start America coming back together is not to make your opening gambit blow up one of America's biggest cities.
Honestly, the world could do with a lot less San Francisco, but
yeah,
that's
but the point is, he wants America to start over, and how is he going to get California back on his side if the first thing he did as leader of the new America is blow up California's second largest city?
It wouldn't have been him. All he needs to do is sit back and be like, oh no,
Yes.
What?
But the point is, he's in charge of the Nazi. And do you think the Californians are going to be like, "Oh no, we believe you that it was completely out of your hands, random guy"? Of course they wouldn't. They'd know Nazis
beyond the fact that
up.
it's not like he has some sort of weird telepathic link to John Smith being like, oh, my master's dead.
No, he gets a report that he's dead. The helicopter sees his body, and they're like, BTW, John Smith is dead, and it's only when John Smith is confirmed dead that he calls off the raid.
Well, to be honest, if I could identify bodies from helicopter...
Yes, but now you're talking about the... now you want to change the rules of the show. That character has the information that John Smith is dead, and that is why he makes the decision he makes, because he knows you got to heal the country, and it does pay off, right? That it's like
there is no payoff. There's just
it pays off the scene. It pays off the scene with John Smith and his wife, which is like they both know that the Nazi America is the wrong thing and it makes everybody miserable and it's worse than the world should be, but he doesn't know how to stop it, and the irony there is the only way to stop it is to just stop doing it. Like, stop doing this horrible thing and then say, okay, we've stopped, what's next? Because his solution, and this is the one thing that has been true about the character that they created in the 4th season, is that he seems to think that if he just kills enough people and kills the right people, he can solve a problem. But the problem is, you keep killing people.
I have to say, though, John Smith's solution of killing more Nazis...
No, obviously
again,
killing more Nazis
can't fault
is good.
him for it.
No.
Maybe if I kill enough Nazis...
No, obviously killing the
won't be a
maximum
better
number
place.
of Nazis is always the best solution to most Nazi-related problems. I'm not going to fight you on that one. Almost every Nazi-related problem can be solved by killing Nazis. That's just
it. That's in the final episode where he's like, "Yeah, well, now America's free again because I killed a whole bunch of high-ranking Nazis."
Yeah. And it's a mixed message. I agree that it's a mixed message. I don't think it's a clean solution to this world. The show wants you to imagine a much happier ending than the world as it is presented to us has established is possible. I agree with you on that front. But I will say that it's like, it is the guy, his sub-commander, is at least taking a step in the right direction, which is, if you want things to get better, you have to stop living in wartime. If you want there not to be this endless struggle, you have to start dealing with people instead of just rounding them up and shooting them.
I'm sympathetic towards that, but I also know that in the real world, how warfare works. You can't just be like, "Hey guys, yeah, we're calling the war off."
Well, I mean, to a certain extent, when you end a war, you do it by calling the war off. I mean, that's what happened in Vietnam. At a certain point, they just said, "Okay, we're calling off the war. Like, we're gonna stop. Gonna stop just massively bombing Vietnam, and we're just gonna go home."
Yeah, it took like a year and a half for that to happen, as compared to him just being like, "Yeah, you know what? Nah."
Although but it took a year and a half for that to happen because there were a ton of troops in Vietnam, whereas they don't have. You don't actually have any troops in the Pacific States, so it's much easier to call off the war because you technically haven't actually started the war yet.
So they're just gonna walk back across the neutral zone and just be like, whatever.
Well, no, they're not gonna charge all the way through. But yeah, they're gonna go back to base at a certain point. People go back to base. Wars don't last forever.
What I'm saying is, there's not some big red button where you can be like, "Yep, war's off," and these bombers and paragliders and all that garbage are just like, "Yep, oh, big red button's been activated. Good thing."
I mean, you literally can just call them and tell them to come home. Like, that's the thing. You can, like,
of the chain of command you have to go through in order to get there.
Yeah, but that's, I mean, yes, you have. Well, first off, if you're the head of the thing, the only thing you have to do is call the head of the Luftwaffe and say, cancel the bombing and paradrops, and then he makes the significant calls.
Yeah, he makes calls to his generals, and his generals talk to the colonels, and the colonels
Exactly.
talk to the captains who are flying the thing. By that time, you've got troops on the ground and engaged.
Maybe. I mean, we don't know what timeline this is happening in. Like, because if you'll remember, John Smith only says, you know, do the raid, because we're assuming this is all actually literally happening simultaneously. John Smith only says do the raid when he is 5 minutes away from being blown up, and he's killed 5 minutes 5 minutes after the crash, right? So, and then the guy hears about the call off, gives the call off order 10 minutes after that. So we don't actually know that this was all happening at the same time. Because think about it. They give the order, launch the thing, they scramble the jets, they put the jets in midair, and they're presumably in air for a while, and at some point he gives the recall order, and we see the recall order get given. It's edited to suggest it's all happening at literally the exact same time, but we don't actually have to assume that it is literally happening at the exact same time. Now, you would be correct in saying the writers think that it's happening at the exact same time because they don't know how war works.
They don't know how anything works. They don't know how
true.
Characters work. They don't know the basics of their job.
No, that's true. So the question is, if they had had a 5th season to figure out John Smith's arc and how to get out of like the thing the corner they had written themselves into, do you think they could have figured it out, or do you think it still would have ended up in a bad place?
I think this is one of those things where, because you don't have a consolidated writer's table, it's very clear throughout the show.
It's a mess. I will agree that it feels a lot like a mess from week to week.
It feels like there's a bunch of people writing. There's one guy who's doing just John Smith, and there's one guy who's doing just Chilton, and then these people don't talk, and then there's like one person who's doing Juliana Crane, and he's drunk. He's really drunk.
Oh my god. I cannot say that is how the writer's room worked, but it would not surprise me if that is how the writer's room worked.
He doesn't show up for the meetings, and when he does, you know...
Yeah, he's just not even... He's completely checked out. I get that. Well, and there's...
headphones in, he's just like, yeah, whatever, communists, good.
Well, and the thing that bothered me most about these guys clearly not knowing how anything worked is the exit of the Japanese from San Francisco. Because, like I said, it's 100% believable that at a certain point it just becomes financially not viable to do this anymore, so you remove yourselves. But the show is acting like the Emperor says we're leaving San Francisco, and everyone left San Francisco in the next 3 days.
Yeah.
Like, no, that would be a
6-month
process. Like,
yeah.
That would be a 6-month process during which you negotiated your exit with whoever you were leaving the keys with. You know?
Oh, no. Beyond that, it's a 6-month process just to get enough boats, planes, whatever,
mobilized,
in there
exactly.
To bring out your citizens.
And during that whole point, you would keep the whole place on lockdown. You would, you would be negotiating exactly how and when you were going to turn over control to whoever you're turning over control to.
Yeah, because you would want to turn over control to someone who's at least somewhat on your side.
Yeah, you want to turn over to somebody reasonable who is maybe willing to sell you the oil that you've been stealing all this time. You know,
even if there's some inflation.
Oh yeah, it's still a better deal than trying to run an occupation just to get some oil.
And the fact that, hey, even if you're selling oil to the former occupiers, your bureaucrats can't eat democracy.
Exactly. Like, you're going to need food supplies. You're going to be needing their technology, as they say, to keep the lights on.
And money, and...
Well, no, and they point out that, and the show, again, I wish they had had more time to explore this, because what the Yakuza guy says is right. You need people who are versed in the infrastructure to keep this place running after the Japanese go. And we can get you there. And they act like they're too good to deal with the Japanese, but of course you're going to have to deal with the Yakuza in order to keep this place running. And to make your deals with the Japanese and to keep you guys in power. Like, And that I actually would have been very interested to see, like, a whole season about, well, what is it like for the Black Communist Revolution having to essentially co-run California with the Yakuza?
Yeah,
that would have been amazing.
The Inspector storyline, I was totally down with. I'm like, wow, finally some halfway decent writing.
Yeah, and I mean, that way they could have kept Robert and his wife in there. Like, yep. I'd watch a season of that show about the Black Communist Revolution dealing with the Yakuza and what it's like for the civilians in this new post-Nazi, post-Japan America. That'd be really interesting.
You have to deal with, like, white racism, black racism, Japanese racism.
Oh yeah,
racism.
How do you get all of these people on the same page?
Yeah, and like the Inspector has been a consistently good character who's always been interesting.
Oh no, his journey has been fantastic.
Like, I'm not down with him just doing the whole Yabitsme thing because you got to be sort of in to do that.
Yeah, I get that.
And the fact that Outlander, not Outlander. What was that?
Which one are you thinking of?
Jared Leto movie about the Yakuza.
Oh God, yeah. What was that called?
Something.
Damn it. Yeah. But anyway, you were saying.
That movie understood the Yakuza better.
Yes.
Than this show.
Well, no, but I mean, it's like the fact that they force him to join, which makes perfect sense because he knows where all the levers of power are. If they're going to be, like, it completely makes sense that they would want him, and he would sacrifice for his son. And honestly, this guy, he's been the guy running, so much of California for so long, he doesn't remember any other job. And it's like, yeah, he has to save his son, but he also has to just keep doing the only thing he knows how to do. It's not like there's a great job waiting for him back in Japan.
Yeah.
He's the guy who was in charge of their failed colony in California.
Well,
like that's not going to be like. So, oh wait, hold on a second. Sorry about this. Hold on.
But like the fact that this Jared Leto vanity production bothered to go look up the Yakuza on Wikipedia, and
the show didn't put in that much effort. It's a problem. I concur. But yeah, so fundamentally, did the show end up being worthwhile in the end? Probably not.
I call it a wash.
It is a wash, because you're right, there are good parts, there are bad parts, and the thing that makes me most sad, weirdly, is that, it ended with the last image we got, the ending, is the focus on the stuff that didn't matter as much. The Juliana stuff, the Stephen Root stuff, right? That's not where our heart was. That's not what we cared most about on this show.
Yeah.
And
it's all the inconsequential bullshit that we just sort of tolerated.
Yeah. And the fact that that's where they decided they were going to wrap things up just feels so weird.
Honestly, I'd compare it to Counterpart, but worse.
Yeah. Because it wasn't as good as Counterpart to start with.
But I mean, we got some really interesting, worthwhile characters. Characters that generally haven't been explored before.
No.
And it was all the minor characters that carried the show.
Yeah. No, it really was.
Whether it was John Smith, DJ Qualls, or Robert Childan.
Our beloved Robert Childan. Yeah, and it is weird that the MVP of the whole show probably was Robert Childan.
Exactly.
The sleazy art dealer.
And
it's a nice surprise.
Yeah, you going into the show, you wouldn't have.
No, I never would have suspected that. In the same way that if you're watching the show 24, right? If you watched all 7 seasons of the show 24, when you started that show, would you have imagined that the only lasting, resonant thing in the entire show would be the relationship between Chloe and Jack Bauer?
No, I would have thought it would have been just, I quit watching after season 3. I'm like, this
Oh, okay. You quit watching after season 3. If you keep watching it, it's like, wow, these two are the best, closest friends in the world of spying, and I love their relationship so much.
I did like their relationship, but at the same time, I'm like, the sheer amount of torture in the show is off-putting to me as a
it's very upsetting.
Like, I'm probably the most conservative, worst person you know.
No, definitely, you're the worst person I know. But
yeah, and even to me, I'm like, the amount of show.
It's way too much torture on this show.
Like, off-putting to the point where I stopped watching it.
Well, no, and the funny part is, it's like, you never would have... I did watch the whole show, and you never would have assumed that would be... And there's a funny part. Literally, like, the last thing that happens in the show is this moment where they're like, huh, who on earth would have thought that, like, the big dramatic... Like, the most, like, important relationship in this whole show has been, like, Chloe and Jack Bauer. No one would have ever imagined that, and it's kind of amazing that that's where we ended up. And I feel the same way about Robert. It's like, when he showed up as the jerk art dealer in the first season, of course I remembered him from the book, but I didn't think he was going to be a central character. But it's like, no, his emotional journey is my favorite thing in the show. And I mean, you're right that had they gone all the way with John Smith, it probably would have been John Smith's journey, but they dumped the character out in the last season, so...
No, it's not even
who knows what could have been.
In the last 40 minutes.
No, it's the last 2 episodes, but yes. You're absolutely right. Anyway, so yes, that was the whole show, Man in the High Castle. We've now watched all of it.
I would call it a wash, dear viewers.
Yeah.
Like, I would go out of my way to watch it.
No, but
if you're studying...
There's some good stuff in there.
Yeah, if you're studying and you're only periodically looking up.
It's not a bad thing to have on in the background. And Stephen Root was always good.
Yeah, even if he was grossly misused.
If he was misused, and... Okay, can I tell you my favorite thing from the show, though?
Sure.
From the whole show, my favorite thing is... So, we go to Mengele's underground lab about the warp building. They're like, now come to the room where we have built this giant, preposterous mirror room to map out all of the worlds we've contacted. And he's like... And John Smith is like, well, how many worlds have you contacted? Just one, but... As you can see, we assume we're going to have more, so we've built a giant room full of an elaborate model for when we eventually find other worlds. I just thought that was so beautiful. Alright, so yes, that was that. Before we go, is there anything you want to recommend to people?
Oh, actually...
Oh?
I would like to suggest the live-action version of Jinro.
Which
it was
is Jinro?
Surprisingly good.
Okay. Jinro is, I assume, an anime.
It is. But, a Korean film studio decided to make it live-action. I was like, wow,
okay.
This is bad.
Really? Okay. And what is the most basic premise of it?
Think power armored cops dealing with communist terrorists.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah, it was made like the manga was made directly after World War II, if I remember right.
Okay.
And so this was a time when
that stuff was clearly at the top of their mind, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, quite reasonably, yes. That was on the a focus of attention for everyone. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so Jinro, it's a... and there's a live-action version, and is this easy to get?
It's on Netflix.
Oh, it's on Netflix. Well, there you go.
Yeah, I was shocked and confused. I was like, I should watch that anime. Wow, This isn't an anime. Okay.
Nice. Way to go, guys. All right, so that's that. We will be back soon with other fiction, meaning we're going to watch the 4th season of The Expanse and talk the H about that. It should be a ton of fun.
It is so good.
Good. I can't wait to see it, all of it. All right, so we're going to be back for that. That should be a ton of fun. But until then, I want to thank you for watching. There's buttons below if you'd like to... Buttons coming up if you'd like to see more. Questions, suggestions, go in the comment section below the video. We'll see you back here for more. But until then, I'm going to say that's right. Au revoir.
We're not going to have a quiz.
Oh, do you have a quiz ready?
I do have a quiz ready.
Oh, God, I'm so sorry. Please, quiz. Put it in the comment section below the video.
What did Murtry, rather, do before he became a security specialist for RCE?
Oh. This should be a lot of fun. All right, so there you go. There's your quiz. Drop it in the comment section below the video. We'll see you back here for more, but until then, au revoir.